Hi, I'm Tyler Friedline with SOS Safety Solutions. In this video, we'll discuss the hierarchy of safety controls and why you should always consider this hierarchy when you're developing corrective actions and working to mitigate a hazard at your facility. So there's primarily two reasons that you might want to be developing corrective actions. Number one, and the best way of developing corrective actions is on the proactive front. So this is where we've identified a hazard prior to it causing injury to one of your employees. And at SOS Safety Solutions, my clients expect to see me on a monthly basis because I'm accountable for completing a monthly safety audit, and that really helps us to be proactive prior to employees getting injured. The other end of the spectrum is the reactive spectrum, right? So this is where an employee's injured and we have a newly identified hazard that we need to mitigate, and we may be in firefighting mode responding to the incident. At SOS Safety Solutions, I'm also accountable for responding to any severe incidents that occur and investigating from my end. However, let me tell you, I very much appreciate the proactive end compared to the reactive end. The hierarchy of safety controls is an approach and best practice for mitigating hazards in a strategic manner. By using this hierarchy when developing corrective actions, you're going to ensure that you've considered the most effective controls that can be put in place. Here, we have a graphical representation of the hierarchy of safety controls. The items at the top of the pyramid are more effective safety controls, and as you move down the pyramid, each safety control becomes less effective. So the items at the bottom of the pyramid, these controls are going to be the least effective thing that we can do. And why is this? Well, the items at the top of the safety pyramid revolve around changing the work environment, whereas the items at the bottom of the pyramid are centered around the employee. They rely on the employee to follow the right procedure, to have the proper PPE in place, and to have the correct behaviors. This is actually a common conversation that I consistently have with new clients that I partner with and their supervisors, is explaining the hierarchy of controls and focusing on the bottom. Often clients that we partner with, I see them heavily focused on changing behaviors after incidents instead of changing the work environment. And what I do is show them cases through our monthly audits of where we can truly eliminate hazards altogether. And what this results in is some of their common injuries that they used to have in the past go down, steady over time because we're changing the work environment, and then the client sees the cost savings associated with that and begin to really buy into following this hierarchy. The single most effective thing we can do after an incident is eliminate a hazard altogether. Ask yourself if a dangerous process can be eliminated from the work environment. Imagine employees working from a ladder. So they're elevated above the ground level, and there's potential for them to fall and sustain severe injuries. Well, how do we eliminate that hazard? Perhaps the items that they're working on up in the air can be brought to the ground level, and if we can do that, we've just eliminated the fall hazard. It's always a fun one for a safety person. Number two most effective thing we can do is substitution. So this typically is centered around chemical exposure. An example might be substituting a solvent-based paint that's flammable with a water-based paint that's not going to have the same flammable properties. The next most effective safety control that's still centered around changing the work environment are engineering controls. Engineering controls place a barrier between the employee and the hazard. So an example of an engineering control would be a machine guard. Imagine you have equipment and an employee was caught in moving parts of the equipment. Ask yourself, can we place a barrier guard over top of the moving parts? If we did, we have put engineering controls in place. Our next safety controls in the hierarchy are administrative controls. Administrative controls change the way people work. There are policies, procedures, and training. Again, they're towards the bottom of the pyramid because they're not as effective as the other controls where we change the work environment. The least effective safety measure that we can put in place is personal protective equipment, otherwise known as PPE. So examples of this might be safety glasses or face mask or hearing protection. And the reason that it's the least effective safety control is, again, it relies on the employee to wear it appropriately and to keep it in good condition and to wear it correctly. Often some of these things are missing, and that's why it's not as effective as our other safety controls here. In summary, follow the hierarchy of safety controls when you're developing corrective actions. This will help make sure that your corrective actions are as effective as possible. For more information, visit synergyinsurance.com.